I should have had this live from earlier today, but alas, I am finally here. I had some delays and so I was not able to join at the time that I had initially planned to join. But I'm here now and I'm ready to share. So I'm hoping that persons who had joined earlier that you can, still pop in now and that you will share the link as well with a friend, with a family member, someone. This is not a space where I'm here to do a lecture or anything like that. I'm just here to share my experience, my story, and hope that it can benefit you. Hope that it can serve as a form of encouragement to you, and hope that you can also share with me as well. So if you are here, just like, subscribe. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened just now, but there was a break in the live, so I'm back. So I'm saying, I'm not here to have a lecture or anything like that. I'm just here to share my experience, my story, and hope that it can benefit you and just to hear what you have to say as well and to learn from the topic. All right, so just give me a moment, please, and then I will proceed. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so I'm back. So I was saying that I am here to share my story as it relates to dealing with aging, dealing with dementia. What is it like dealing with aging parents? What is it like dealing with the condition called dementia, which many persons associate with aging, but it really is not as a result of aging because many persons are older and they do not have this condition. So dementia is not as a result of aging. More and more we're seeing where studies have shown that persons who are younger are developing this condition and having to deal with it. Now, dementia is a condition that affects the brain, as you would have known already, I believe, and it causes the brain to shrink. Now, some persons refer to dementia as type 3 diabetes because dementia is also similar to diabetes in the sense that it comes with insulin resistance and those other factors. So what really causes dementia? There are several factors. You can't really say that if you do this, it will prevent you from getting dementia, or if you do that. But it has been said that things like reading, doing puzzles, and studying help to delay the time in which persons get it if they are susceptible to it. However, there is no guarantee that if you do these things, you will not end up with dementia. And there's no guarantee that if you don't do them, that you are going to get dementia. All right? So, what has my story been like dealing with parents who, one is a situation of aging, and of course, we're all aging. We start to age from the day we're born. And one, it's a situation with dementia. One who it's not a case where aging is really the factor here, because in retrospect, while my mom would have been diagnosed with dementia in 2021 officially, in retrospect, there are certain things that would have changed prior that would have indicated that, things are not as they used to be. But sometimes when persons are still entirely functional, they're able to carry out their daily duties, they're able to check in on persons as per usual, and so on and so forth. We don't really recognize that there are certain things that could be indicative of something deeper going on, right? So in my mom's case, that would have been the situation where, in retrospect, certain things changed that were not the way they were when I would have been growing up as a child. Certain experiences would have been different, but I did not at the time think that it was associated with anything of this nature. I did not foresee that my mother was developing dementia probably as early as 2017, 2018, right? So, what has that been like for me? So my mother and I, we have always had a very good relationship. We have always had a strong bond. And she has always been someone that I can speak to about different challenges that I may experience, someone who has always been there for me, to the point where in the earlier stages of my life, she would have had opportunities to go outside of the country to make a better living, and she opted not to because she did not want to leave her only female child behind and go to pursue greater opportunities, and neither did she want to neglect her marital obligations to go and pursue greater opportunities. So my mother has always been a supportive person. She has always been a jovial person, somebody who will go to visit those who are sick, take care of them. Some of the things that I'm hearing about my mother now that she's not well, some of the things that persons are sharing about things that she has done for them are new to me. It's the first I'm hearing about these things that she would have done, gifts that she would have given to children and persons who she would have made certain allowances for. She's naturally that kind of person. She likes to help, she likes to make people smile, and she has always been the joker of the family, you know, the one who is always giving jokes, the one who is always positive in every situation. I remember when my grandfather passed, I was 13 years old at the time, and my mother reacted in a manner that to me at the time was surprising, because I was saying, Mommy, how is it that your father passed and you're not in tears and you're not crying? And she basically said to me that, my father was sick and I did not want him to suffer. And I asked God if he's going to suffer to not allow him to be in any pain and all of that, because my grandfather would have passed from prostate cancer. So she saw this as God taking him out of a situation, because by the time he passed, he would have been bedridden too. So she saw God taking him out of that situation, and so for her that was more of an answered prayer than a reason to mourn. Also, in our human frame, believing that based on how my grandfather lived his life, that he would have secured a place in heaven, she found that as a sense of reassurance that her father was better off not being in this situation of pain and all of that anymore, right? So she has always been the tower of strength. She has always been the strong one. I remember when my dad got sick in the past, my mother was working 2 jobs at the time, and my mother gave up one of those jobs so that she could be home to take care of my father, and that she had to be at the hospital. She was at the hospital 2 times a day, every day. It was only when it was around the time of the Tivoli incursion, and so because of that, there was a time when she could no longer visit every day because it wasn't safe to do so, and that was the only point where she did not do it. But she would have been there every day, 2 times a day, every day, and she has always been that individual. All right, now that's for my mother. As it relates to my father has always been a strong person physically, in terms of the one who goes out to do certain jobs in terms of manual work and so forth. My parents did not have the opportunity to finish high school, but they are very much aware of what is happening around them. My father in particular, he reads a lot. He reads the Bible a lot even now, and he used to read the newspaper a lot. And so he would become very abreast of things when it comes on to, telling you the importance of financial literacy and all of that. That is something that has stuck with me throughout life. In fact, as a child, my father would have said to me, it's not everything that you want you're going to get. And that has stuck with me throughout life. My parents are not wealthy people, but my parents have always made sacrifices, not just for me, but also for other persons. And they would have always tried to lend a helping hand, even when they are not financially able, in the best financial position to do so. And so some persons may see it that, oh, they are able to do this and they're able to do that. But it's not that they're able to do it. They made certain sacrifices. And we have to thank God, because God, He has been so good to us. He has been so awesome. And so we have to thank God. Right? So growing up with my parents are principled persons, right? They are persons who believe in discipline. They do not believe in corporal punishment as a primary means of discipline either. And as a child, I was not the child who they had to be going to school to check on frequently and all of that. I learned the importance of being responsible very early in life, right? I learned the importance of not being wasteful very early in life. I started my first summer job officially when I was 16 years old. My first summer job was in a restaurant as a cashier. And I learned a little stuff in the kitchen too, but it was really the cashier part of things. And my first summer job, I started contributing to bills at home, because my parents always taught me, no, they didn't ask me to contribute at that time, but they always taught me that it is important that you contribute to the space that you are in. And so when I started doing my first summer job, I saw the need to put a little aside and say, Mommy and Daddy, put this towards, some utilities and so forth. So they taught me the importance of saving, the importance of contributing, because things are not easy. Yes, parents make sacrifices, but things are not easy. In fact, before I was eligible to do my first summer job based on age, I wanted to work, and they said that it was illegal. So what I would do is I would have students, relatives and friends on my veranda, younger cousins and probably the neighbors' children. I remember at one point through my church we were doing, this was when I was a little older now though, we were doing a community service initiative where I would take 2 or so children to my house on a Sunday, and I would assist them with homework and so forth. But before that, back in high school when I was too young to work, I would have summer school at home with my relatives and neighbors' children and family friends' children and so on and so forth. And from that time, persons were saying, oh, you're going to become a teacher and so on. That was so far removed from my mind. But anyways, let's get back to the focus here, the dementia and the aging. So being raised in that situation, I'm not an only child, but I'm the only child that grew up at home with my parents. And so I basically was raised like an only child. I didn't have that daily interaction with siblings and all of that, and so what persons talk about sibling rivalry, I know. So I learned to be very dependent on myself. I learned to think critically and make decisions without having other person's input. Yes, I would ask my mother for certain advice on things, and as I got older, the importance, her wisdom became even more important to me as it related to certain aspects of my life and so on. So moving to this time period here now, the parents that I have, my upbringing and all, and for them to know you know, my mother to be diagnosed with dementia. I noticed certain changes with her that I started to say, why is this happening with mommy, you know? Why is it when I was younger, mommy, I could share anything with her, I could tell her anything, you know, and now I don't feel so comfortable with certain things. And then I realized now that that was the start of the whole process of dementia, because my mother at this stage is no longer able to say, okay, that is okay to say, this is not okay to say, so on and so forth. You know, persons may be talking to her and she just looks, she doesn't respond because the processing time is delayed, you know, and that has been very hard for me. That has been very, very challenging for me. She will ask me the same question multiple times. She will leave the stove on. She has to be monitored. She will open the door and go outside in the night, so you have to take up the keys. And it's like every day or every week, you are learning something new about the condition. You're learning something new, and you have to just make the changes as they come, right? So today you may think that it's okay to leave the gate open. Another time, so you know, you have to keep the gate locked and let her stay in the yard because you don't want her to leave the premises. And then, you know, we have heard of countless situations where persons, their loved ones would have wandered away and they can't find them, and all of those things. Not being able to have a conversation with my mother, sitting down and having devotion with her. No, she's not singing. I have to be prompting her, mommy sing. She sing a line or two and then she stops. You know, that sort of a thing. So that has really been a struggle for me, having to deal with this transition, having to deal with the new version of her. She not being able to get up and go and do her morning walk on the road and return because it's not safe, you know, having to restrict her in so many ways, her crying at times because she's not seeing the persons that she wants to see. And then sometimes too, she may be saying that she's feeling pain somewhere, and then she may not actually be feeling pain, but she may be frustrated because she can't see someone at the time. And so having to deal with all of that, it has really been an experience, I can tell you. You know, and sometimes persons say, oh, I can relate to that, I've dealt with this. But you see, when you have one parent dealing with it's hard, you know. But when you have two parents dealing with at the same time, it's even harder. My father, it's not so much the memory lapses and all of that for him, but as it relates to him, it would have been the aging, you know, what comes with the aging, having to help him to take a bath because he's no longer able to do that himself, you know, having to do the whole thing matter of the situation where you can't make your way to the restroom on your own, you know, having to deal with having to depend on persons to take you to the dining table, not being able to get up at times and persons having to assist you, and the physical limitations that come with aging, not being able to move your feet so quickly, so it's taking a longer time to get from one point to the next, you know, having to depend on somebody every move that you're making because there's a possibility of falling, having to use walking aids and getting adjusted to that, especially for a male, you know, the male ego is there as well. So it has been, my mother would have been my father's primary caregiver. That is no longer the case. She's not able to function in that capacity anymore. Yes, she does have lucid moments and she will be able to assist with some stuff from time to time, but you cannot expect her to take on that role because she's no longer capable of functioning at that capacity. So it has really been a challenge adjusting from the strong person to, you know, this current situation. And dementia is something that it takes a toll on the loved ones as well. For me, being the only child here with my parents and dealing with them on a day-to-day basis, yes, I do have the assistance of a caregiver now, but dementia is not just about affecting the person who is suffering with it. It can drain the family financially. You have to ensure that you have someone to help with care. You have to ensure that you are able to provide the right foods, medication. You have to ensure that the monitoring is done. You have to be there physically to support them as well, because they have no moments. My mother has her moments when she remembers that she has the dementia, and then that breaks her. My strong mother, who usually says not to worry about anything, God is in control, she cannot say an entire prayer without breaking. In the middle of worship, in the middle of prayer, she may change the topic and be asking about something else. You may give her food and she just starts eating. There's no longer a prayer there. So, these are some of the challenges, some of the things where you may be speaking to her and telling her not to do something, and she's continuing to do it, and acting in a manner of a child. These are some of the things that saying about once a man, twice a child. My mother is not at the age where I was expecting that. But it is a part of life and we have to deal with it. My father, he has to be helped in the physical sense. So moving him around, ensuring that he gets his bath, ensuring that you take him to get his meals. All of those things are part of what come with the aging process, and the person feeling dependent too doesn't make it any easier for the individuals who are aging. We have to be kind, and I do get frustrated at times. I'm human, and I'm not going to stand here and say that I'm always upbeat and excited and happy. But we have to be there for them. My parents have always been very supportive, and I cannot think of not being there for them. We have to be there for them, and we also have to think about our own mental health, because can I tell you, this does a number on the brain. Having to adjust to your parents transitioning in this way, having to adjust to dealing with the new version of them on a daily basis, it can break you. It can really break you. Do not be afraid or ashamed to seek therapy. Therapy does not mean that you are mad. And so many persons now like to joke about mental illness and oh, that person is mad and whatever. Depression is something that is very common now. Very, very common. And I thank God for His grace and His mercy and His constant reminders to me that He is still here with me even when I feel like no one else is here with me. And I must thank my mother's siblings in particular, because my mother's siblings, the bond that they have, the care that they have towards their sister, that has really been a tower of strength. Sometimes for me, persons will reach out, persons who, my mother in particular, should have been there for. They will reach out and say, how is your mother doing, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't have any problem with persons asking how my mother is doing. I don't have any problems with persons saying I will pray for her. But if you're constantly going to be asking me how she's doing, I'm going to eventually shut down. And I'm just being honest, because if you really want to know how she is doing, and if she really means that much to you and she would have been there for you, then pay her a visit. Come to see her. See how she's doing. Right? Don't constantly be asking me, how is she doing? How is she doing? If you want to know how she's doing, you can pay her a visit. That helps with her mental health as well. She is an extrovert. She likes to interact with people. That helps to make her happy. I am an introvert. I like to, yes, I will interact with persons, but I need time to recharge, right? I'm not the social butterfly who is constantly in everybody's space and wanting everybody in my space. No. So, it has been a journey, and it continues to be a journey. But I just want to encourage you, if you are in a similar situation, whether it is that you have parents who are aging, parents who may be struggling with Alzheimer's or dementia, you may have an autistic child, you may have a partner who is struggling with something, whatever it is, just know that you are not in this struggle alone, even if your immediate circle doesn't have anyone who understands. And that's the other thing too. Sometimes when persons are not in a situation, they don't really understand what it comes with, because persons who are in my age group, Most of them don't, well, most of the persons I know, because I don't want to make a generalization, they don't have a situation that is similar to mine. Yes, they have different challenges, so they can't really relate. So when somebody wants to go somewhere or do something, they can say, okay, I'm gonna go here now and I'm gonna do this now, and I am not exactly able to do that. I have to put necessary plans in place. I can't just get up and go most of the time. Now that I have a caregiver, it's a little easier, but I have to put certain plans in place, right? So I just want to encourage you. God says in his words that he will never leave us or forsake us, and he will be there with us until the very end. He desires for us to be prospering and to be in health. I think that, there are some lessons here for me in all of this, and I've started to see some of them, but I'm not entirely sure of where God is taking me or what he's trying to tell me in its entirety, but I'm just trusting the process and believing that he desires to work all things for my good. Even though I can't see it, I am believing that he's working, and he has been faithful. He has been faithful. Things could have been worse. My parents could have been bedridden, so many other things could have been. So we're standing on top of our graves. God has given us life. We have the opportunity to share with each other. We have the opportunity to encourage someone. So I just want to say, just hold on. Whatever you're going through, the storm will pass. The fire may be raging, but it's not going to rage forever. God will see you through. So be encouraged. Have a great rest of the evening. Have a great week. And God bless. I hope to see you again in another live at another time, maybe on another topic. Peace.